In this session, you're going to work out questions on division of whole numbers by decimals. Division of whole numbers by decimals. And to get us started, we are going to start with our first example, which is 7 divided by 0.2. 7 divided by 0.2. Now, the first thing we need to do is that we need to always change our divisor. In this case, we have 0.2. Change it to a whole number. We are going to start by changing the divisor to be a whole number. And for us to do that, we are going to multiply this 0.2 by 10. So we say 0.2 times 10 is 2. Now, because we have multiplied this part times 10, we are also going to multiply this part times 10. So in our better arrangement, we can say 7 divided by 0.2 is 7 times 10 and 2 times 10. So that we have 70 over 2. So 70 over 2 is the same as saying 70 divide that by 2. So remember, in our earlier session, we said that you start by asking yourself, how many times can 2 go into 7? 7 divided by 2, that will be 6 because of 2 times 3. We subtract the 6, we get 1. Drop the 0, so now we have 10. How many times does 2 go into 10? So that is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. We subtract the 10 and we have zeros here. So our answer is 35. So our next example, we are going to have 100 divided by 2.5. So a better arrangement would be to write it in form of a fraction. 100 divided by 2.5. Now we are going to look at our divisor. It should be changed into a whole number. For us to change 2.5 into a whole number, we'll say times 10, because this 2.5 is in one decimal place. So we need 1 0, which is a 10, multiply by 10, and also multiply the numerator by 10, so that we have 1000 divided by 25. So by this point, you should be able to multiply 2.5 times 10 quickly and say that is 25. So arranging it in the long division way, we are going to say 1 divided by 25, impossible. 10 divided by 25, impossible. So we have 100. How many 25s will go into 100? These are 4 because of 100. 25 times 4 is 100. We subtract that and we remain with our 0 here, which we will drop. So because 0 cannot be divided by 25, we are going to add a 0 in our answers line. Our answer will be 40. On to our third example. Our third example, we will say take 65 divided by 0.5. Again, better to arrange it in a fraction method, in a fractional way. So 65 by 0.5, we want to remove this decimal number so that we are able to divide by a whole number. So the 1 decimal point will mean we multiply by 10, and we multiply the numerator by 10, so that we have 650 over 5. So divided that in the long division method, we are going to say 5 ones, subtract that, you get 1, drop your 5. So how many 5s in 15? We have 3, because of 3 times 5 is 15. So we have zeros. We have a 1 that remained here that we will drop. So 0 divided by 5 is impossible. So we will add a 0 on our answers line. And our answer is 130. On to our fourth example. Our fourth example, we will take 135 135 divided by 1.5. Again, let's arrange this in an easier way, a fraction, so that we say to remove this point, we will say times 10. Because we've multiplied by 10 here, we also have to multiply by 10 in the numerator. So that we have 1350 over 15. 1350 divided by 15. 1 divided by 15 is impossible. 13 divided by 15 is impossible. 135 will be how many 15s? That will be 9 15s. That will give us 135. 9 times 15 is 135. So subtract that, you get zeros. Drop the remaining one. 0 divided by 15 is impossible, so we add a 0 here. So our answer is 90. We move on to number 6. Number 6, example 6, where we are going to take 121 divided by 1.1. So arrange that in a fraction, into a fraction. That's 121 over 1.1. Remove this decimal because we want to make it a whole number. Multiply by 10 on both numerator and denominator, so that you have that over 11. So what is 12 10 divided by 11? So 1 divided by 11 is impossible. 12, we have 1 11. 1 times 11 is 11. Subtract that, you get 1. Drop your 1 so that you have 11. 11 times 1 will give you 11. Subtract that 11. We still have our 0 here. We drop it. So because this 0 cannot be divided by 11, we are going to add a 0 in the answers line. And our answer is 110. Right, example 6. We are going to say 1089 divided by 1.8. So again, we arrange this as a fraction. We want to remove the decimal point here. So we'll multiply by 10 because we have one decimal place. Again by 10 here, so that you have 10,890 over 18. So by long division, you're going to write it in this way. And you will say 1 divided by 18 is impossible. Put a 0 on the answers line. 10 divided by 18 is impossible. Put a 0 in the answers line. Then take 108. So how many 18s will give us 108? They're going to be 18 times 6. Let's take an estimate. This is 48. This is 10. So by 6. 18 times 6 is 108. Then we have zeros. Drop our 9. 9 cannot be divided by 8. So we are going to add a 0 on the answers line and drop the 0, so that now we have 90. So how many 18s are going to go into 90? 18, let's try by 5. This is 40. 5 plus 4, 9, 90, because of 5. So this is 5 times, then that will give us 90. So our answer in this case is 605. Okay, let's move on to number 8. I hope you're getting. Okay, 864 divided by 1.6. So again, arrange this as a fraction, but we have to remove this decimal point. So we multiply by 10 because 1.6 is in one decimal place, and this by 10. So that now you have 8640 over 16. So do this in the using the long division method. we'll say how many 16s can go into 8? Impossible. So we take 86. So how many 16s will go into 86? So we could try and say 16 times 5. This is 30. Then 5 times 1, 5 plus 3, 8. That's 80. So let's say 5. 5 because of 80. So we remain with 6. Drop your 4. So how many 16s will go into 64? Let's say 16 times 4. This is 24. Carry 2. 4 plus 2, 6. 64 because of 4. So 4 times 16 is 64. Subtract that. And then now we remain with the 0. Now this 0 divided by 16 is impossible. So we'll say add a 0 on the answers line so that your answer will be 540. So our ninth example will be 4 divided by 0.01. Now with this we are going to write it as a fraction. So this is a fraction, but we have to change our divisor, which is the denominator, to be a whole number. For us to do that, we look at how many decimal places there are, so that in this case there are 2, so that we say multiplied by 100. 2 decimal places multiplied by 100. Then numerator multiply by 100 also, so that now you have 400 over 1. Now 400 over 1, you know it is, you can do the long division if you so wish. 1 divided by 4. Why 1? How many ones go into 4? 4. 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract that, you get a 0. Drop your 0. 0 cannot be divided by 1. So we add a 0 in a numbers line. And then we drop the other 0. Still zeros cannot be divided by 1. We put a 0 in our numbers line, so that our answer is 400. Then we have our 10th and last example, which you're going to say 324 divided by 0.08. Divided by 0.08. So we are going to write it as a fraction. Write it as a fraction. And then our denominator, which is the divisor, is in 2 decimal places. So that means we will multiply by 100. Then the numerator again by 100. So that now we have 324 over 8. Now we can divide this easily. 3, 2, 4, 0 divided by 8. So how many 8s will go into 32? You could say 8 times 4 is 32. So 4 times because of 32. Subtract that, we have 0. Drop your 4. So how many 8s go into 4? Sorry, how many 8s go into 4? Impossible. So we will put a 0 in our numbers line and drop the 0. How many 8s go into 40? 5. Okay, 8 times 5 is 40. Subtract your 40 so that you have zeros. We still have a 0 here. Drop it. Drop it like it's hot. All right, so 0 cannot be divided by 8, so we put a 0 in our numbers line. So in this case, our answer will be 4050. 4050. Okay, so that has been it for this session. So click like if this video has been of help to you, leave a comment and click the notification bell in the subscription box for you to get updates on new videos.